15. Black actors who are still rotting in jail. Right now, by 2025, Hollywood lights, chart-topping hits, and viral fame can build empires overnight. But for some black actors and performers, a single misstep turned promise into prison. From rising stars to cautionary tales, this is the story of 15 talented individuals whose careers and freedom ended behind bars by 2025. Number 15 on the list is Michael Jace. Michael Jace wasn't a household name, but anyone who watched The Shield remembers him. The soft-spoken cop with a strict moral compass, quietly battling the chaos around him. On screen, he had presence, that calm intensity that made you trust him, even when you shouldn't. Before The Shield, Jace had built a respectable career as a steady working actor in Hollywood, appearing in films like Forrest Gump, Boogie Nights, and Planet of the Apes. He wasn't a superstar, but he was the kind of performer every director wanted: reliable, convincing, and quietly compelling. Off-screen, Jace was known as polite, serious, and deeply private. Nobody saw the storm coming. In May 2014, that calm exterior shattered. In a shocking twist, straight out of a crime drama, Jace shot and killed his wife, April, inside their Los Angeles home. Their 2 young sons were in the house when it happened, the motive being jealousy and financial pressure, 2 things that have quietly destroyed more Hollywood lives than drugs or fame ever could. The trial was cold and quick. Jace confessed to pulling the trigger, but claimed it wasn't planned. The court didn't buy it. He was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 40 years to life. Today, at 60, he spends his days behind bars, the man who once played a cop, now living on the other side of the badge. And if Jace's story feels like tragedy, the next one is pure chaos. The fall of a man who built an empire out of intimidation and ended up crushed beneath his own legend. Number 14 on the list is Suge Knight. There was a time when Suge Knight ran the West Coast like a king. The co-founder of Death Row Records wasn't just a music executive. He was a myth, the man who turned Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and Tupac into stars. His suits were sharp, his words sharper, and his shadow stretched over all of hip-hop. But behind the power, there was violence, and everyone knew it. Born Marion Hugh Knight Jr. in Compton, California, Suge started out far from the music world. A former college football player and bodyguard, he first made a name for himself through sheer intimidation and business savvy. By the early 90s, he had helped launch Death Row Records, a label that redefined rap music and dominated the charts. Under Knight's rule, West Coast hip-hop became more than a sound. It was an empire, a movement, and for a while, he sat at its throne. Yet, by 2015, the empire was gone, and paranoia had taken its place. During a confrontation on the set of Straight Outta Compton, Knight ran over 2 men with his truck, killing 1. Prosecutors said it was murder. He said it was self-defense. In 2018, he took a plea deal, 28 years in prison for voluntary manslaughter. Now, nearing 60, Suge Knight sits in a California prison cell, still giving interviews, still clinging to the past. And as the world moved on from Death Row's golden age, another familiar face from the screen stepped into a headline no actor ever wants, one drenched in blood and regret. Number 13 on the list is Isaiah Stokes. Isaiah Stokes wasn't famous in the way Suge Knight or Michael Jace was, but his face was familiar. You'd seen him in Law & Order, SVU, Boardwalk Empire, and Power. He had that natural screen presence, confident, charismatic, the kind of actor who didn't need the spotlight to make an impact. Before he ever stepped in front of a camera, Stokes was a product of South Jamaica, Queens, a place that raised him on grit, ambition, and survival. He studied at Delaware State University, earned a degree in theater, and slowly made his way into entertainment through local theater and independent projects. His breakout came through recurring TV roles that showcased his sharp delivery and intensity, and he balanced acting with his love for hip-hop, releasing music under his own name. But in 2021, everything stopped. Security footage caught Stokes firing 11 bullets into a parked car in Queens, killing a 37-year-old man. Prosecutors called it revenge, cold, and deliberate. The footage left no room for doubt. In 2024, he was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. For a man who once played tough guys on screen, reality proved far harsher. Today, Stokes lives in a world without red carpets or scripts. Just walls, time, and the haunting echo of that moment that ended everything. And just when you think you've seen the extremes of fame and misfortune, there's another figure whose story blurs the lines between celebrity, loyalty, and a life forever marked by a single, irreversible act. Number 12 on the list is Corey Miller. In the late 90s and early 2000s, the name C. Murder echoed through the rap scene, not just as a stage name, but as a persona, bold, raw, and real. Corey Miller, the younger brother of rap mogul Master P, was one of the key figures behind No Limit Records, a label that defined Southern hip-hop's gritty rise. With hits like Down for My Ends and Like a Jungle, C. Murder captured the harsh realities of street life while balancing a growing fan base and film appearances that hinted at an acting career in the making. But fame has a cruel way of turning on its own. In 2002, Miller's life took a dark turn when he was convicted in connection with the murder of a 16-year-old fan at a Louisiana nightclub. Witnesses said the confrontation escalated quickly, leaving the teenager fatally shot. The trial was fraught with tension, recanted statements, accusations of jury bias, and intense media scrutiny. Despite multiple appeals and support from high-profile figures, including Kim Kardashian, the courts upheld his conviction, and Miller remains behind bars serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole. Inside prison, C. Murder hasn't gone silent. He's continued to record and release music from behind walls, using his art to maintain a connection with fans and assert his claims of innocence. Yet, the consequences of that night are inescapable. And just as one chapter of the hip-hop world closes behind prison walls, another young figure would soon rise in the spotlight, a rising talent whose own brushes with the law would shock the nation and mark the start of a story that no one could ignore. Number 11 on the list is Tay-K. While C. Murder's downfall was a slow unraveling, Tay-K's came fast, like a wildfire sparked by his own lyrics. Barely out of high school, Tay-K shot to fame with The Race, a song that went viral precisely because of its chilling reality. He recorded it while on the run from police. That video, showing a teenage rapper flaunting his fugitive status, became a grim prophecy of the years that followed. Born Tamor McIntyre, Tay-K grew up in a rough Texas neighborhood where the streets taught lessons no classroom ever could. His raw talent and undeniable edge caught the industry's attention early, but his rebellious streak would also lead him straight into legal trouble. In 2016, he was involved in a home invasion that ended in murder and aggravated robbery. The authorities quickly linked him to the crime, and after a tense manhunt and legal proceedings, he was convicted in 2019. The judge handed down a sentence of 55 years plus additional decades for related offenses, effectively ending a career that had just begun. Even behind bars, Tay-K's presence continues online. His music streams relentlessly, interviews and fan videos keep his face circulating, and his legend persists in youth culture. But the reality is far harsher. The same audacity that propelled him into stardom is the same force that buried his future before it could truly bloom. From the rapid, almost cinematic fall of a teenage rapper, the story of fame, impulse, and consequence shifts once again. Soon, another artist would capture public attention, a story that begins with a shooting that shocked fans everywhere. Number 10 on the list is Tory Lanez. If Tay-K's story was a flash of rebellion, Tory Lanez's was the collapse of an empire built on charisma. Daystar Peterson wasn't just a rapper. He was a shapeshifter, effortlessly moving between singing, producing, and performing. Hailing from Brampton, Canada, he grew up surrounded by music, honing his skills in both rapping and singing before breaking out with the Chixtape series, which earned him global acclaim and positioned him as one of the most versatile artists of his generation. Alongside his music career, Lanez made occasional appearances in music videos and TV specials, blending his performance skills with a growing public persona. But all that came crashing down after a single night in 2020. The shooting incident involving Megan Thee Stallion turned Lanez's career into a courtroom drama. In a shocking twist, the court found that Peterson had shot the fellow artist in the foot during an altercation, an act that was both reckless and criminal. The trial captured headlines worldwide, dissecting every detail of his life, fame, and mistakes. When the verdict came, guilty, Tory was sentenced to 10 years in prison, effectively ending a career that had been on the cusp of pop superstardom. From sold-out arenas to prison walls, Tory Lanez's fall was as swift as it was shocking. He's now reportedly adjusting to life behind bars, writing music, and appealing his conviction. For fans who once saw him as untouchable, the silence speaks volumes. And while Lanez adjusts to life behind bars, another young artist faces his own legal battle, one that has kept him in custody and in the headlines since 2019. Number 9 on the list is YNW Melly. And then there's YNW Melly, a name that once promised to reshape melodic rap, but now carries the weight of a story frozen in time. Jamel Demons, born and raised in Gifford, Florida, came up in a world that fused struggle with music. He made a name for himself, not just with his mixtapes, but with cinematic music videos that felt more like short films, showing an artistry far beyond his years. His breakout track, Murder on My Mind, was both haunting and magnetic, pulling fans into a world that felt dark yet irresistible. As he climbed the Florida rap scene, Melly's voice became his signature, melodic, raw, and confessional, and record deals soon followed, promising a career poised for superstardom. But in 2019, everything changed. Melly was charged with the double murder of 2 close friends, a crime that stunned the music world. The evidence painted a chilling picture, and since then, his life has been spent inside a Florida jail, waiting for a retrial that keeps getting pushed back. Despite the prison walls, his music refuses to disappear. Streams keep climbing, fans debate his innocence, and his name still echoes online like a ghost of what could have been. If you've been following along, don't forget to share, and subscribe. Hit the bell icon so you never miss any of our videos. And as the music fades behind bars, the next story takes us even deeper into the world of performers whose off-screen lives have collided violently with the law, a tale that is as shocking as it is real. Number 8 on the list is Mystikal. If the early 2000s had a sound, Mystikal's voice was part of it, raspy, wild, and impossible to ignore. Michael Tyler, born and raised in New Orleans, came up performing in local talent shows and clubs, honing a style that was part raw street energy, part theatrical flair. He wasn't just another rapper. He was a showman, a performer whose energy felt electric both on stage and on screen. Hits like Shake Ya Ass and Danger, Been So Long, made him a household name, and his larger-than-life personality earned him guest spots in films and TV appearances, giving glimpses of a charisma that could cross mediums. But behind the high-octane persona was a man constantly battling demons. Mystikal's career was repeatedly derailed by legal troubles, each one more serious than the last. In 2003, he was convicted of sexual battery and extortion, serving several years in prison. While he attempted a comeback afterward, the pattern of criminal allegations never stopped. His most recent arrest in 2022 involved charges of sexual assault and false imprisonment, stemming from allegations that he forcibly restrained a woman and committed acts of sexual violence against her. Held without bond, Mystikal now faces significant legal consequences, effectively ending any hope of reclaiming the stage or screen. What was once a life of tours, recording sessions, and cinematic opportunities has been replaced by a stark routine of cells, legal hearings, and waiting for justice to unfold. And as one cautionary story closes, the next tale opens, revealing a different kind of empire, one built on fame, fortune, and a staggering federal sentence that shocked the world. Number 7 on the list is R. Kelly. While Mystical's troubles brewed in and out of the spotlight, R. Kelly's downfall was global, the fall of a music giant whose songs once defined an era. Robert Kelly was the man behind I Believe I Can Fly, Ignition, Remix, and countless hits that shaped R&B and pop culture. He wasn't just famous, he was a cultural force with appearances in films, TV specials, and collaborations that transcended genre. Born and raised in Chicago, Kelly rose from local talent shows to international superstardom, building a career marked by soaring vocals and relentless productivity. But behind the glamour, a dark reality simmered for decades. Starting in the 1990s, allegations of sexual misconduct surrounded him, involving minors and young women, often dismissed or quietly settled. The public scrutiny intensified after the 2019 documentary series Surviving R. Kelly, which amplified survivor accounts and brought renewed legal action. In 2021, Kelly was convicted on 9 federal counts, including racketeering and sex trafficking of minors. The case relied heavily on witness testimony, emails, and recorded evidence of abuse. The trial was high-profile, covered globally, and prompted reactions ranging from outrage to disbelief from fans and the general public. Now serving a 30-year federal sentence in a New York prison, Kelly's once celebrated voice is a ghost of its former self. For an artist who once sang about freedom, the irony couldn't be heavier. And as one towering figure of music falls from grace, the next story turns to another young artist whose career and life would be dramatically cut short by violence and legal consequences. Number 6 on the list is Lil Reese. From the world of R&B legends to Chicago's drill scene, the story of Lil Reese is a different kind of tragedy. Tavares Taylor grew up in the rough neighborhoods of Chicago, where music became both an escape and a calling. He emerged as one of the key players in the drill movement that took Chicago's underground rap scene global. Collaborating with the likes of Chief Keef, Reese became known for his gritty lyrics and raw authenticity. His tracks, including Us and Traffic, showcased not just talent but the lived reality of life in Chicago's toughest streets. For a while, it seemed like he might outgrow the chaos around him, but trouble kept finding him. In 2024, Reese was involved in a violent incident in which he assaulted another individual with a firearm, a crime that prosecutors argued was both intentional and reckless. The case went through the Chicago criminal court system, where evidence including eyewitness testimony and surveillance footage was presented. The court ultimately found Reese guilty of aggravated assault, and in late 2024, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison, with the possibility of parole in 2026. It wasn't the headline-making scandal of an R. Kelly or Mystical, but it was enough to pull another young artist off the streets and into a cell. Reese is currently serving his sentence, adjusting to life behind bars, while fans continue to debate his music and legacy. From the raw edge of Chicago's drill scene, the story now shifts to a television star whose fame brought him into homes worldwide, and ultimately into a courtroom no one expected. Number 5 on the list is Jerry Harris. From the gritty streets of Chicago to the bright lights of Netflix, Jerry Harris's story couldn't be more different. Born and raised in Hinsdale, Illinois, Harris grew up passionate about cheerleading and performance. He first gained attention as a young athlete, eventually earning a spot on the nationally renowned cheer program at Navarro College. His charisma and energy shone brightly when Cheer, Netflix's docuseries, captured the drama and dedication of the team. With his infectious smile and boundless enthusiasm, Jerry became the show's breakout star, embodying the spirit of positivity and perseverance. But in 2020, that image shattered. Harris was charged in federal court with production and possession of child sexual exploitation material, along with enticement of minors for sexual acts. Prosecutors presented detailed evidence, including text messages, videos, and online communications that confirmed his involvement. The case drew massive media attention, given his role as a beloved TV personality, sparking nationwide outrage and debates about abuse in entertainment. In 2022, Harris pleaded guilty and was sentenced by a federal court to 12 years in prison, a verdict that ended both his freedom and his career. Now incarcerated, Harris has all but disappeared from the public eye. The rise and fall of a star so closely watched by fans around the world serves as a grim reminder of how quickly fame can turn to infamy. From the story of a young cheerleader turned television sensation, the next tale brings us to a man who once filled living rooms with laughter before facing consequences that would erase that image forever. Number 4 on the list is Danny Masterson. If Jerry Harris represented modern celebrity, Danny Masterson symbolized the nostalgic kind, the sitcom star who once made millions laugh. Born in New Jersey and raised in the Church of Scientology, Masterson entered show business at a young age alongside his siblings, eventually landing the role of Stephen Hyde on that 70s show. His sarcastic wit and deadpan delivery made him a fan favorite and earned him a steady career in television and occasional film roles. But beneath that wholesome image was a disturbing reality that emerged years later. Beginning in the early 2000s, multiple women came forward, accusing Masterson of sexual assault. Investigators documented patterns of abuse, with testimonies revealing repeated incidents over several years. The case drew intense media attention, not only because of Masterson's celebrity status, but also due to the involvement of the Church of Scientology, which was accused of shielding him from scrutiny. In 2023, after a high-profile trial in Los Angeles Superior Court, Masterson was convicted of multiple counts of rape. The jury weighed the testimonies and corroborating evidence carefully before delivering a verdict that would permanently alter Masterson's life. He was sentenced to 30 years to life in prison, ensuring that the man who once portrayed a beloved sitcom rebel would now be remembered for his crimes. From the quiet cheer of a Netflix star to the laughter-filled sets of a 2000s sitcom, the next story shifts us to a figure whose own artistic talent and early success could not shield him from the consequences of his actions. Number 3 on the list is Colin K.R. Walker. And then there's Colin K.R. Walker, a rising star whose potential burned out before it even began. Born and raised in Los Angeles, Walker balanced his early life between music and acting, showing a natural talent that caught Hollywood's attention. His breakout role in the 2018 film Superfly and his rap career gave him both visibility and credibility as a young, multifaceted entertainer. Industry insiders spoke of him as someone who could bridge the gap between street credibility and mainstream appeal. But that promising trajectory came to a horrifying halt. In 2022, multiple women came forward accusing Walker of sexual assault over several years. The Los Angeles County Superior Court trial revealed harrowing testimonies. Victims recounted how Walker used his status and charm to manipulate and exploit them, sometimes in situations that involved intimidation or threats. The evidence included phone records, witness statements, and corroborating accounts that painted a disturbing picture of repeated predatory behavior. After deliberation, Walker was convicted on multiple counts of sexual assault and sentenced to 50 years to life in prison, a verdict that stripped away not only his freedom, but the career that once seemed destined for greatness. The courtroom proceedings and media coverage brought his fall into sharp focus. From rising star to convicted felon, all before his career could truly take flight. Walker now lives behind bars, a life removed entirely from the red carpets and recording studios that once seemed his future. From the devastation of a young actor's shattered career, we move to another story where ambition, talent, and crime collide. This time, in the world of rap and street influence. Number 2 on the list is Casanova. If Brooklyn had a voice in rap that carried both grit and swagger, Casanova was it. Born Caswell Sr., he didn't stumble into fame overnight. His life had already been shaped by the streets he would later rap about. Before signing with Roc Nation and sharing stages with Chris Brown and Meek Mill, Casanova had earned respect for his raw, unapologetic storytelling in tracks like Don't Run and Set Trippin'. Fans knew him as more than just a rapper. He was a force, a figure whose music felt lived in, real, and undeniably hard-edged. But that authenticity came with a cost. Behind the hits and sold-out shows, Casanova's past wasn't done with him. In 2020, federal prosecutors charged him with racketeering, linking him to the untouchable Gorilla Stone Nation, a case that exposed a violent underworld beneath the glamour of his rising career. The investigation was exhaustive, highlighting years of alleged gang-related activity, extortion, and violent crimes tied to the organization. By 2023, after navigating a tense legal battle, Casanova pleaded guilty and was sentenced to over 15 years in federal prison. Now, the man who once commanded the Brooklyn stage navigates a world of concrete and bars. Sources say he spends time reflecting, occasionally speaking on regret and redemption, though the spotlight he once had is replaced by cell lights and prison routines. For a performer whose lyrics celebrated survival and hustle, the irony is heavy. He escaped the streets only to confront another kind of confinement. And as one empire-building Brooklyn figure sits behind bars, another young artist waits in the shadows, his own story on the verge of tragedy and headlines. Rising above the streets, the irony is bitter. He escaped the blocks of Brooklyn only to end up behind federal bars. Number 1 on the list is Terrell Davis. From Casanova's Brooklyn to Atlanta's trap scene, Rollo's story echoes a familiar beat. Terrell Davis wasn't just a rapper. He was a community figure, someone whose music and persona reflected both hustle and responsibility. Growing up in Atlanta, Rollo built his reputation in local rap circles before signing to Gucci Mane's label, where he quickly rose as a voice of the streets. His tracks spoke of loyalty, struggle, and ambition, earning him both regional acclaim and a growing national following. Offstage, he tried to give back, often helping neighbors with food, money, and housing, which made him a respected figure in his community. But in 2018, everything changed. Federal authorities charged Rollo with marijuana trafficking, accusing him of orchestrating a multi-million-dollar operation that included transporting cannabis via private jets. Prosecutors alleged a pattern of large-scale distribution and conspiracy, framing him as more than a local artist, a key player in an organized network. Davis initially pled not guilty, arguing that his actions were meant to support his community. But the case went to trial in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Georgia. The court ultimately rejected his defense, and he was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. As of 2025, Rollo is nearing the end of that sentence, with release expected soon. Even behind bars, his influence hasn't completely faded. Through his team, he communicates on social media, sharing messages of hope, unity, and self-growth. His story, unlike many others, might still get a second act. It holds proof that even behind prison walls, some voices refuse to fade. From the silver screen to music videos, the journeys of these 15 Black actors and performers reveal a stark reality. Talent and fame offer no immunity. Behind the headlines and streaming charts, prison walls became the final stage, a somber reminder of choices, consequences, and lives abruptly halted.